A death row inmate who set a couple on fire, killing one of them 24 years ago, will be executed today in the state of Arizona. 63-year-old Leroy McGill is scheduled to be executed by lethal injection today, May 20th. He was sentenced to death for the absolutely horrific 2002 murder of 20-year-old Charles Perez, who unfortunately I cannot find a picture of anywhere. Back in July of 2002, Leroy was living in an apartment in Phoenix, Arizona with his girlfriend Jonah, and also living in this same apartment complex was Charles Perez and his girlfriend Nova. Around this time, Charles and Nova had accused Leroy and Jonah of stealing a shotgun from their apartment, and this caused a lot of hostility between the two couples, eventually making Leroy so incredibly angry that he decided he was going to kill them. Around 3:30 a.m. on July 13th, Leroy went to the apartment where Charles and Nova were staying, and just before going inside, he spoke to somebody else that was also living in that apartment. He told this person to get him and his family out of the apartment because he was going to teach them a lesson, referring to Charles and Nova. He then walked into the apartment where both Charles and Nova were sitting on the couch right by the front door. He looked at both of them and said, quote, "You shouldn't talk behind other people's backs," and then immediately poured gasoline all over both of them and set them on fire. It was reported that he added little pieces of styrofoam into the gasoline, and this turned the styrofoam into this soft, sticky-like substance. So once he poured the gasoline all over Charles and Nova, it really stuck to their skin and made it almost impossible to get the fire out quickly. After setting them on fire, they were both immediately engulfed in flames and ran outside, but this also set the entire apartment duplex on fire, endangering the other person that was living in the apartment and the other person that was living in the apartment next door. Luckily, both of them were able to get out and they were not harmed. When firefighters arrived, both Charles and Nova were still alive, but they were covered in severe burns. Approximately 80% of Charles' body was covered in burns, and over 3/4 of Nova's body was covered in burns. Unfortunately, Charles Perez died from his injuries the next day on July 14th. Although Nova was severely injured, she did survive the attack, and she was actually able to identify Leroy as their attacker. Leroy went to trial in 2004, where a jury found him guilty of multiple different charges, including Charles's murder, the attempted murder of Nova, arson, and the endangerment of the other people that were in the apartment, and he was sentenced to death. He has attempted to appeal his sentence, but obviously all of his appeals have been denied. So that means that Leroy McGill will be executed by lethal injection today, May 20th, in the state of Arizona. Really quickly, before I end this video, I do want to take a moment to send my sincerest condolences to any loved ones of Charles Perez, and of course to any of the surviving victims. I am so incredibly sorry that I could not find a picture of Charles. If there is anyone out there that happens to have a picture of him or can find one, please leave it in the comments below. But again, I am so incredibly sorry for your loss, and I do truly hope that after what happens today, you're able to find some sort of peace.